Before we begin, I'd like to invite you into a particular state of mind. It's a state where logic becomes a personal servant, where $1 million a week feels like a reasonable unit of measurement, and where the most destructive desires can be framed as simple, sensible arithmetic. This is the mind of Jordan Belfort, the so-called Wolf of Wall Street. We find him alone in the crushing silence of a 9,000 pound a night hotel suite in London. He's at the peak of his wealth and the thick of his relapse. The drugs are a given. The real addiction on display here is the need to rationalize, to justify the unjustifiable, to buy loyalty, and to outrun a moment of self awareness at supersonic speed. This is Wolf of Wall Street, Chapter 16, Relapse Behavior. If I earn $1 million a week and the average American earns $1,000 a week, then when I spend $20,000 on something, it's equivalent of the average American spending $20 on something, right? It was an hour later, and I was sitting in the presidential suite in the Dorchester Hotel when that fabulous rationalization came bubbling into my brain. In fact, the whole thing made so much sense that I picked up my phone, dialed Janet, woke her up out of a deep sleep, and calmly said, I want you to send George over to Alan Chemical Top's house and have him pick up 20 lewds for me. Then have him fly them over on the next Concorde. Okay? As an afterthought, did it occur to me that Bayside was 5 hours behind London, which meant it was 4 a.m. Janet time. But my twinge of guilt was short-lived. After all, it wasn't the first time I'd done something like this to her. I had a sneaky suspicion it wouldn't be my last. Anyway, I was paying her 5 times the going rate for personal servants. So in an essence, hadn't I purchased the right to wake her up? Or if not that, hadn't I earned that right through the love and kindness I'd extended to her, like the father she never had? Obviously so, because without missing a beat, Janet was now wide awake and eager to please. The problem, pretty sure the next Concorde leaves early tomorrow morning. We'll make sure George is on it. I have to send him to Alan's house. I have an emergency stash for you right here in my apartment. She paused for a brief instant, then added, Call me from the hotel? Before I answered yes, I found myself wondering what sort of conclusion could be made about a man who could call his assistant and ask her to use supersonic transport to satiate his raging drug habit and his obvious desire to self-destruct, and not even get a raised eyebrow in return. It was a very troubling thought, so I chose to not dwell on it very long. Yeah, I'm in my room. Where else I would be calling you from, numbnuts? One of those red boots in Piccadilly Circus? Phew, she shot back. It's just wondering. Then she changed her tone and asked, Do you like the room better than the one in Switzerland? Yeah, it's much nicer, sweetie. It's not exactly my taste. Everything is new and beautiful. You did good. How much is the room? You didn't even look when I checked in. £1,000 per night, which is about £13,000. Seems like it was worth it though. I took a moment to consider a question. It was a mystery to me why I felt compelled to always book the presidential suite, no matter how ludicrous the price. There was this feeling I got whenever I walked up to the check-in counter of a fancy hotel and uttered those magic words. My name is Jordan Belfort, and I'm here to check into the presidential suite. Well, I knew it was because I was an insecure little bastard. But what the hell? Now, with sarcasm, I said, Thanks for reminding me of the exchange rate, Miss World Banker. I'd almost forgotten. Anyway, the room's definitely a bargain at 13 G's a night. Although I really think it should come with a slave for that price, don't you? You were late checkout, so we only have to pay for one night. No, wait, son, happened, son. Instantly, I plunged into paranoia, calculating the possibility of our phone conversation being bugged. Would the FBI have the audacity to tap Janet's phone? It was inconceivable. There was a heavy cost to tapping someone's phone, and nothing meaningful was ever discussed on this. Unless, of course, the feds were intent on busting me for being a sexual deviant or a rip-roaring drug addict. But what about the British? Was there a possibility that M16 was trailing me for a crime I hadn't even committed yet? No, also inconceivable. They had their hands filled with the IRA, didn't they? Why would they give a shit about the Wolf of Wall Street and his devilish plan to corrupt the retired school teacher? They would not. Satisfied, our conversation was secure. I replied, she's doing great. I just dropped her off at her flat. That's what they call apartments here, Janet. No shit, Sherlock, said the obnoxious one. Oh, excuse me. I was unaware that you were such a world fucking traveler. Anyway, I need to stay in London an extra day. So book the hotel for an extra night and make sure a plane is waiting for me at Heathrow on Friday morning. I'll do whatever you say, boss. Now, quick, before I hang up, remind me of what a great boss I am and tell me how much you love me and miss me. You're the greatest boss. The love you, miss you, I can't live without you. Well, that's what I thought. And then I hung up in her phone without saying goodbye. Thank you.